propulsion stage coming up first in just under 12 minutes. As we saw when we had video of the crew on board, Victor Glover has now moved to seat 1. He launched in seat 2. He has switched places with Reed Wiseman. He is going to be, Victor Glover will be commanding and piloting this portion of the mission. He'll be flying the vehicle, and he has
standing by.
Let us know he is going to put the communication system on voice activation, so he's going to be speaking nearly continuously for the next approximately hour and a half so that the ground team can hear crew feedback on what it's like to fly Orion, how it's like the simulator here on Earth, and how it might be different.
Hey everyone.
During the proximity operations demonstration, Glover will use
standing
the
by for the proximity operations demo to begin.
Command Orion, first doing a translation control checkout and roll control checkout. He will get a read of Orion's roll, pitch, and yaw from this commanding. We'll hear calls about targets and degrees of width. There is no rangefinder available between Orion and the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, so this crew is using other data like how big the upper stage looks outside of the window or through a camera. So the degrees that you'll hear him call out are the width of the target on the screen that he is monitoring. That screen is going to be fed by the docking camera that was set up after launch. The target that he'll be reading initially is the entire ICPS itself. We'll be about 100 meters or 300 feet away from the ICPS. Those degrees are going to be reported as greater on the screen because it's a larger target.
Can you just confirm that we have a gas introduction of some sort, nitrogen, I'm guessing?
Checking.
We'll see how much time there is to talk.
Again, we'll start with the ICPS itself being that target. As we get closer, the target switches.
Confirm O2 introduction in progress.
This is a camera on the Orion crew module adapter, and we're looking aft, and you can...
As we get closer to the ICPS
this should give us
these maneuvers, the target that they will be reading back switches to the docking targets that are on the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, as if we were going to fly in and dock. Of course, this is a practice, essentially, for our future Artemis missions in which we will be docking to a lunar lander. Once the initial checkouts are complete, the crew will get a go to move in toward that forward target on the ICPS. They're going to brake at 75 meters, and again at 30 meters.
All right, I'm gonna mute the. It looks like we are seeing. I'm still listening to it in my headphones, but it looks like they're beginning to maneuver the solar arrays to probably to a separation, a good place for separation. I think what we're seeing here, the arc we're seeing here is probably the it could be the Orion stage adapter, but this would give us a good view of the Orion stage adapter and the ICPS behind it at separation. And so this is again a camera that's on the side of the Orion crew module adapter, which is at its widest and facing aft.
Negative pitch and a full positive pitch.
Affirm.
It sounds like they're talking about.
Right, RHC. Here is a full negative pitch.
They're checking out the rotational hand controllers, the RHC. So I think he's talking about that's Reed talking about the right hand RHC. So they're just making sure those are ready to go. After they separate, they're going to open up to about 100.
That's a good checkout, and we'll do the reselection of the channel
I believe
from the
it's
ground,
100 meters.
And you are go for Orion 180 pitch ATP and Prox Ops FTO after set.
And so that's what she was just talking about, what they're going to do, which is
picking up at 1.3 is 13.100.
Should be fairly obvious when they separate.
The crew just
There are
did a
some
couple of tests with their hand controllers that they'll be using
large
to command the
springs
spacecraft.
that will push the
Again, we expect to hear quite a lot of communication from them during this
Push
time
Orion
period, so I'm going
away.
to front load you with a lot of information of what you can expect to hear. So initially, again, that target that they will be monitoring is the ICPS itself once we have undocked. And then as we move in closer, it becomes the docking target. The crew will fly all the way into 30 meters before, and they will break at 75 meters, braking again at 30 meters, and then arrive and hold at 10 meters away from the interim cryogenic propulsion stage. Victor Glover is going to conduct an attitude alignment and then move into the precision translation test and then the precision rotation test. They are exactly as they sound. These are small movements while closer to the ICPS, like we would need to make if we were docking. Of course, again, this is essentially a practice for our future Artemis missions in which Orion will need to dock to a lunar lander.
I'm going to just mute this here preemptively. We can try and do some questions, but it does kind of sound like this is going to be a pretty active period here, and so we'll see how much time there is kind of to do questions in this stream. But if this ends up being a little bit too active and it just makes sense to watch and listen, there will be time tomorrow to things will be at a little bit of a, hopefully a little bit of a slower pace at times tomorrow. Now, having said that, I'm probably going to try and get up, and yeah, as Trevor said, I'm going to try and get up for the perigee raise burn, which is probably something like 10 hours from now, something like that. So it's a little ways away. But so maybe not that one, but I'm obviously going to be interested to see what Earth looks like out at 70,000 kilometers. But there will be time tomorrow. The crew will go back to sleep, so will I probably, and or at least take a nap. And then TLI is well into flight day 2.
Separation from the interim cryogenic propulsion stage coming up in 4 minutes and 25 seconds. We are now 3 hours and 18 minutes since liftoff.
I think she said separation in 40. Did she say separation in 40? I didn't mute it or unmute it fast enough here, but we should see that relatively. It should be again relatively obvious when separation occurs. And 100 meters is
We expect to have views from the docking
long
camera.
ways
This is
away,
new
so
hardware on Artemis II, and testing it out here helps us reduce the risk in using it for future missions. We'll be using this for proximity operations and our overnight demonstration tests as well. It remained stowed for ascent and was installed shortly thereafter. The plan is to keep it installed during the crew sleep period, but they will remove it during crew wake since it keeps the crew from observation and photography out of that window.
So maybe it was the 4 minutes and 25 seconds she was talking about. It does look, so maybe that 40 seconds had to do with the maneuvering to attitude. So you can see the shadows changing on the...
Houston integrity, Vox check from seat 1 on the Peltor headset.
Loud and clear.
Okay, I have you the same. Calls requesting a response will be prefaced with Houston. All other comm, no response required. Houston, how do you copy that?
We copy. We're ready.
We are ready. Just some words on my configuration. I'm wearing my Oxsuit boots, and they're clipped in to the seat 1 foot pan to give me some stability. I've got the shoulder straps of the harness on tightened, holding me down to the seat pan. So I feel really stable for actuating the rotational and translational hand control.
Glover letting the teams here on the ground know that he doesn't expect a response from them.
We're currently ICPS next phase 245. Our next action is in about 2 minutes. Starting timers. Thank you for bright. Did we confirm with them about the power down? The sun is coming up. Houston integrity for the power down. Are we okay to brighten the DUs or prox ops demo?
Your go to configure DUs as bright as you like.
Integrity.
Wondering if this is the docking camera.
Expecting ICPS separation coming up in about a minute and a half.
Houston, ICPS maneuver complete. Good step attitude.
Integrity copies.
Reed shared just before launch. This is a crew activity. We will be hearing Victor's voice.
But also the sun's coming up, so that could be it. Okay, about a minute until we start timers.
Christina Cook is floating to Victor's left. She's
hope
in
they
charge of
switch
the
back
timing
to
and
the-
procedural discipline.
I hope they switch back to the... Okay, this is
Jeremy
actually
Hansen.
even better. Solar camera array video.
For the
So the
Hansen is floating
separation
to Reed's right,
plane
watching
is
the
over
ICPS, ready to
here.
call back away if need be.
so we'll see the
Standing
separation
by
there.
for separation.
Let me hopefully clear that before they command it. All right. That,
30 seconds to timer start.
you can actually see the spring, or one of the springs, right?
And that timer
Actually,
starts
the
at separation.
mechanism's right
Command
here.
sent. Stand by for separation. Yeah, we have good separation, good motion.
You could see all the
ATP
springs
go.
there poking out.
Confirmation, separation from the interim cryogenic propulsion stage.
Good motion. Go for 180 pitch, confirmed. Separation confirmed, Houston.
Houston copies.
All right, here comes the pitch rate.
Okay, nice shot. That's interesting. So they're going. It's interesting.
Video.
They're commanding that pitch.
I have no stop stream option. It's grayed out.
They command that 180-degree pitch around very quickly. So that's interesting because you almost think that they wait until they get out to 100 meters,
I
but
see it.
it
Look
looks
at
like
that.
they're going to keep it. They're going to be facing the spacecraft the upper stage
This view
as they
inside
back away
Orion.
from it.
I see the moon in the camera, and now I see ICPS in the docking camera field of view. Okay, waiting for 550. I'm on the THC. There's 550, starting the 19
Nice.
in 1.
This is the view from
It's that white.
9.
That lighter area in the center is the
this is the
docking
view
target.
arrow.
The center
docking
line
camera is showing the crew inside Orion.
camera.
19 ins.
So in this little in here,
SMRT
it's sort of blown out, so you
Caution,
can't see the
medical
crosshairs for the center line camera. But as they get
Much
closer,
quieter. Got a little rumble,
Checking.
like we're driving on a rocky road, but much quieter than in the sim. I'm showing about 3 degrees wide on ICPS. And it's holding right near the center.
and that's installed in the
Integrity,
center
no
of the
action for you
diaphragm.
on that enable prop caution.
I'm
No action.
going to try not to step on Victor's calls too
All right,
much here
still
because it
waiting
is
on
interesting.
The 19 ins to burn out. Thrusters are still fine. We've got a little rumble. It's like driving on a rocky road. All right, burned out. Okay, I see about 2.6 degrees wide on ICPS. All right, zooming in. It's 3x. 2.7 degrees wide. Here goes 6x zoom. Looks to me like we might have even slight closure. I definitely don't think we're opening. Anybody else? Okay, 2.6.
Houston, hold confirmed at 2.6 degrees.
Copy.
Look at the exposure difference between 2 and 3. That's 3. It's quite washed out. When I go to 2, I can see the docking target. I'm going to leave it at 2 for now.
That's nice.
Step 6.
The degrees Glover is
Okay,
reporting.
here come 3 out pulses. 1, 2, 3, and it again is that rumble, a little bit of a rumble from the service module. I hear them still burning. It looks like they just burned out, and I'm seeing opening. We definitely have opening. 1, 2, 3, 4 impulses. And so far, what I can tell you about this is it's much tighter than the sim. There's not a lot of lateral movement, not a lot of rotational movement as these are burning out. ICPS is nice and stable in the camera field of view. It is 2.5 degrees wide, and we should have a slight closing rate. It is a half a degree below the center of the docking cam. It is 2.5 degrees wide. In Authority DAP, it's quite nice and very responsive. And the camera is also better than what we were flying in the sim. I'm getting very slight movements, so it's making it easier to assess opening and closing. This camera is much better than the sim. We will be less than 4 degrees. I'm going to start left since it's just to the left. So here comes 2 left. 1, 2, left. Good motion. Looking for 1 full degree, so I'll start at the center. Hack. ICPS is centered, waiting for 1 degree to the right. Now I'm going to give it 1 down, if that's okay. All right, we still got good motion. I'm going to hit 1 down for correcting ICPS towards the center. All right, and then when I get 1 degree of motion, copy. There's 1 degree hack. 1, 2, 3, 4 rights. 2 lefts to center, copy. Again, very responsive. Authority DAP is quite responsive. It's very intuitive. I got about 1/4 of a degree, maybe even less than that, of overshoot by starting at 1 degree of movement. And I've got good motion, half a degree back toward the center line, and I will capture with 2 lefts. I'm going to lead that by about 1/4 of a degree. Here comes the first 1, 2, and I'm going to give it, I'm going to let those down slowly correct themselves. So, all right, again, that little rumble, it's like a very slight rumble, like just driving over a little slightly rocky road, and the 2 lefts are in. We've stopped on the center line laterally and vertically, waiting for it to correct back to the center. Here comes 2 downs. 1, 2. Start counting at the center. Copy 2.5 degrees wide on ICPS.
And Houston, Ike keeps talking about the rumble, and I think from the previous spacecraft that we have flown, Soyuz and the SpaceX Dragon, we're used to a more distinct popping sound out of the thrusters, and this is just more of a gravelly road, kind of very calm. There's not a lot of dynamics on board. Very smooth vehicle.
1 degree of motion. Here comes 1.
Copy
2,
observation.
3, 4 up. Okay, there's 1/4 of a degree overshoot, maybe 1/3 of a degree, and we've got motion is stopped. Waiting for motion. Yep, this one is taking a little longer. Motion is tracking back the other direction now. We'll go 2 downs to center. We also had an up correction going in, so I think I didn't take that out before we started this. That may have contributed to it overshooting a little bit more than the previous. Yeah, we started with a little bit of Z motion due to that correction earlier on. All right, half a degree to go, and then we'll go 2 downs to stop it in the center. Still right at 2.5 degrees wide. We'll probably only need 1 down to stop this. Okay, gonna put that in now. There's 1 down, and we are centered.
Houston, integrity translation checkout complete. Moving to step 7.
2.5.
Copy.
Equal. Back to that step. Okay. Okay, I'm good.
And Houston, with the stable ICPS diameter, we do have the opportunity to do one in pulse, but we are going to hang here for now.
Copy. Concur.
Okay, I don't need to ref. Okay. All right, control stick steering. Engaged. Hold inertial. Diaphragm is ref. One degree on the rate scale set. Just trying to get that docking target background. So I'm going down exposure 1 now. I can see the docking target clear. Ready? Okay, 3 pulses to the right coming in. 1, 2, 3. Mid motion. 2 for 17. 5 degrees for 17. No cross coupling, no rate in other axes. 10 degrees for 17. Mid motion. See ICPS center docking target 12 for 17.
The degrees you hear Glover reporting are the amount the ICPS is taking up on the docking camera, which you see in the left side of your screen.
All right, roll rate is at 0. Ready? Aligned. Giving it 1 down, 1 left.
Houston, roll alignment complete.
Little gravel road.
Copy.
And we got another momentary enabled caution prop SM RCS manifold 6 ox P.
No impacts to Prox Ops demo. Good to continue.
Integrity.
Point 2. Set. Okay, let me center ICPS and get stable. I'm going to go up. I'm going to go right. Okay, roll right and hold. All right, roll right. It's coming in. Roll good motion, no cross coupling. It's only roll rate. I see ICPS 2 for 5. 3. It is slow, easy to anticipate, and stopping at 5. Was able to stop right at 5. Using integrity. Oh, sorry. Okay, going left. Good motion. It's all roll. No rates in pitch or yaw. 2. All right, roll 8 released. It's 0. Back to the center. Roll is slow but nice and predictable. Easy to anticipate and stop with precision.
Houston, roll checkout is complete.
Copy.
You're 2.6 degrees wide. Ready. Blank edge key. Pitch is in pulse. It's just greater than half a degree low. 3x. Pitching up 1 pulse. Or 1 degree. Pitch up. Nice and snappy. And there's 1. Anticipated, stopped it right on that 1.5 degree line. Okay, and returning it to the pitch down. Stop just greater than half a degree low. Stop. Very nice. That pitch was very tight, very responsive. I was able to stop it right where I started it. B pitch going back to discrete. A 0.7 degrees low. Pitch up and hold. All right, pitch up. Stop in it. Again, very responsive also in discrete. Pitch down and hold. Back to initial vertical position. Stop. After. Very nice. Ready for yaw to pulse. Going right, one pulse. A good motion. There's all right, and yaw left, one pulse, and stopped it right at 1 degree. Very responsive in yaw as well. Left, one pulse, good motion, no cross coupling, and 1 degree. Stopped, overshot about 1/8 of a degree. Back to original position. Yaw going back to discrete. Yawing right and hold. 1 degree. Good motion, no cross coupling, half a degree. There's 1 degree stopped and overshot about 1/8 of a degree, but nice capture. Yeah, I'm getting a little of a bounce here. I think that, not sure, it's most likely from us, the camera, or this vehicle wobbling in yaw. So ICPS is moving, it's wobbling left and right slightly in the camera view. It did stop at the 1 degree of motion quite precisely, but we got this bobble just now, going back to initial position by yawing left and holding. So while it's yawing, it is solid. There's no bobble. Stop. Released. See if that bobble comes back. There is a slight bobble, maybe dead banding or just the camera or the vehicle fluctuating. Are you guys seeing that, Houston? Are you seeing the bobble in the docking cam video?
Victor, we are not, but it might be because it's low rate for us.
Okay, copy. Had a little bit of a lateral oscillation there.
Houston, authority, DAP checkout complete, ready for step 12.
Copy, go to continue, and also, once you get there, you are go for forward target approach to 10 meters.
Integrity.
Copy. No. The DAP is going to course. It is showing course. 16 in, starting now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 14, 15, 16 ins.
Houston approach was initiated from approximately 2.7 degrees.
All right, I'm going to give it one
Copy,
down.
2.7.
So they have started the approach.
All right, we're coming up on 3 degrees wide. Stand by for 3 degrees. Pack to 3 degrees wide.
There are 2.
Gave it 1 down. It doesn't seem to be tracking down, though. I'm going to give it 1 more down in course.
There are 2 docking targets. This is the forward docking target.
Go. Responding to that one, going to give it 1 left in course as well. Good corrections. Good. Are you okay?
This view live inside Orion.
3 videos. Do you, or field of view, do you need any lighting adjustments in the cabin?
Cab camera looks good to us. Thanks.
hack will be at 0.5 degrees wide. Stand by. Hack 3.5 degrees wide at 1823.
The crew received the go to move in towards 10 meters away from the interim cryogenic propulsion stage.
Yeah, sure.
Again, pilot Victor Glover flying the Orion spacecraft right now.
Hack will be at 4 minutes. I'm sorry, 4 degrees wide.
This is all to teach us about how Orion flies manually in space and prepares us for future missions when we'll need to dock with a lunar lander.
Stand by for 4 degrees wide. Hack ICPS is 4 degrees wide at 19. Course, and here comes 10 outs. 2, 5, 10 outs. ICPS is still stable. That little wobble, lateral, a little yaw induced. Again, can't tell if that's the camera or the vehicle, but overall it's pretty stable. Very, very minor oscillation.
Houston, 75-meter braking is complete. Going into dock cam exposure check.
Copy.
Copy. You got it.
That was
Take
pretty.
that fine.
That was pretty self-explanatory
Fine and
there.
right.
So they do have some idea about the
Stand by
range.
for 4.5 hack, 1950.
So they went into 75 meters and then they arrested their closing rate, or at least mostly arrested it.
All right, coming up on 5 degrees wide. And back 5 degrees wide, 2020. Okay, next action is when the center docking target is 1 degree wide. It is about half a degree wide right now. Copy. Thank you. 6 hack, 24, 6 degrees wide. Fine, I'm going to go 1 up. 8.
We're watching live coverage of NASA's Artemis II mission, which
Copy.
started
Going course and 1 out.
a little less than 4 hours ago.
1 out.
Pilot Victor Glover is flying a
Back to
proximity
9.
operations demo right now.
1 up. Stand by for 6.5 degrees wide.
And he's providing...
Excuse me. I may have skipped on you. 5.5. Heck, that's 5.5 degrees wide. That may have been the reason we thought I skipped 1 on you. I skipped 5. 1 up, 1 right. Okay. All right, course. We did a mistaken slowdown, so going back course and 1 in. Not as far ahead as we thought we were.
So you can hear him providing play-by-play, essentially. They may have...
All right, coming up on 6.5. Back 6.5 degrees wide. Fine. You're fine. Going up, up, 2 ups. And,
I think they basically...
6. Good grief.
I think they basically postponed troubleshooting of the
That was
toilet
6 degrees wide,
until
the
after
last
they
hack
do
I
this
gave you.
demo. They should have a decent amount of time tomorrow.
I think I skipped through 6.5. I'll give you 7.
And also perhaps before they go to bed tonight or today, or I guess this would fit as tonight for their work day as well.
Stand by for 7 degrees wide. ICPS is 7 degrees wide. Hack 2245. All right, and ICPS, the center docking target is about 0.7 degrees wide. Next hack is 7.5, correct? All right, 7.5 hack.
Got a good view of the center line target now.
At about 0.75 degrees wide on the center docking target. left and fine. 8 degrees, hack, 2322. All right, I'm going to transition to center docking target, 0.8 degrees wide. The next action will be course and 6 outs when it's 1 degree wide. There's something floating to the right of ICPS. Did you see that float off the screen on camera view? 0.8 degrees wide. Quite large. All right, I'm going to course. 0.9 degrees. 1 degree wide. Here comes 6 outs. 1, 2, 3, 6 outs.
Houston, 30 meter braking complete.
Copy.
This view from Orion's docking camera looking at the interim cryogenic propulsion stage. They have completed their 30-meter braking and are flying in towards 10 meters away.
Copy. Looking for 2.5 plus or minus a quarter of a degree. All right. It's about 1.2, 1.1.
So they're closing to 10 meters, and then they will hold there.
This view from the docking camera is a zoomed-in view at this time. Again, we are coming in, we were at 30 meters, moving in toward 10 meters away from the interim cryogenic propulsion stage. And again, we are seeing a docking target, but this is practice.
5 degrees wide hack.
We are not docking to anything today. This is a test of how Orion flies when completed manually by the pilot.
That is definitely worth it. All right, next hack will be at 1.5 degrees wide on the center docking target. Nice and smooth. It is actually holding quite close to the center, so I haven't had to make many corrections. Nice and stable so far. We are at manual exposure 1, which is interesting. I don't know what the sun angle is right now, but that seems to be the best view. Yeah, and you see the shadow of the center cross. It's a little low. Right there. Maybe these seat belts weren't a good idea because now I can't see it. All right, next one will be 1.5. Stand by. Hack 1.5 degrees wide at 2650. And then at 2.5 plus or minus a quarter of a degree, it'll be, of course, 4 outs. And I'm jealous I can't float up to the window and see it out in front of us. Coming up on a 1.75 degrees wide.
This view inside Orion as the crew is using their iPhones to take pictures out of the window of the
1.75 degrees wide at 2740.
They're able to see the interim cryogenic propulsion stage outside the windows.
10-meter arrival next, so once we get to 2.25 degrees wide, we're in the window to start braking. Course and 4 outs. Coming up on 2 degrees wide. 2 degrees wide. Back 2820. Center docking target is 2 degrees wide.
Standing by for Orion to arrive 10 meters away from the ICPS.
Copy. I'm going to go ahead and go to course now. And I see we're at about 2.25 degrees wide. I think we're in the window to start braking. Let's start the outs. 1, 2, 3, 4 outs. That did not induce a lot of rotation, so not a lot of cross-controlling there and waiting for closure to stabilize. I'm showing us at about 2.25. Fine, just to center us up. We're in fine. Going right.
Houston, 10-meter arrival confirmed.
Copy, read. You are go to execute forward target handling qualities test.
Picking up at step 13.
We're 2.3 degrees wide. We're in the window.
The crew is now moving into some precision translation.
Copy.
So they'll do.
We are within 2 degrees, definitely. I could do 1 or 2 things, but
They'll do some of the same types of maneuverability tests they were doing out at distance.
Fly out. Okay, yep.
Except
Well,
now
so I'm going to
here
go
at
down,
10 meters.
translate down. Just a little bit. I mean, we're talking about a fraction of a degree. Going to 6x. And I'm waiting for that cross to get centered, and then I will pitch up.
Again, Glover is able to...
So I'm going to, right there, stop it. Now I'm going to pitch up, center it.
Glover is using the docking camera on Orion, looking at the ICPS that you see in the left of your screen.
That was very easy to do, and I show us as a flyout complete. Copy.
Houston, angular alignment complete, ready to begin fine handling qualities test.
Copy.
Copy. Affirm. We're in fine. 3x zoom coming.
This is a zoom view from the docking camera on Orion.
Fine.
We are about 10 meters away from the interim cryogenic propulsion stage.
Y-axis ready. I'll start in the center, and we're out and fine. Okay. Copy, a little opening. Back to center laterally. Okay. Yep, 2.75. Yeah, I see opening. Okay. So we're centered. 1, 2, 3, left pulses. Good motion. There's a half a degree, good motion, a little bit of down or up in on ICPS, and there comes 1, 2, 3 to null, about a 1/10 of a degree overshoot. We're looking pretty stable right now. We did have some upward motion on ICPS. I'm going to correct that out as well.
I thought Amit Shatria provided. I'm just go that chat question from JC about
okay, 3 right.
the launch abort system battery.
Right. 1, 2, 3 right. Bringing it back to center. Good motion.
I
Picking
thought
up a little bit of upward motion. 2.7 stable on the range. Copy. And going to capture it with left. 1, 2, 3. Your center. Do you feel that?
they're passing through the Van Allen belts right now, actually.
Okay, a little rumble. Felt something here just a second ago. Going 2.6 on the range. All right, and we're going to go 3 pulses up. I'll start measuring from the center. 1, 2, 3, up. There's center, and we'll null 1 degree low. Overall, control is very responsive. Not sure if it's the dead banding half a degree good motion, but I am doing a little bit more lateral correcting to keep it centered. And there's 1, 2.
Do we get a little buffering here of my feed? I guess I'll let this go for a second. So the question, JC, about the launch abort system battery,
about a tenth of a degree overshoot. We got some lateral motion built up in there on the left.
I thought Amit provided a decent
all right, 3 down
explanation about that in the post-launch, but hopefully there will be time to go through that. Maybe tomorrow.
Range is good. We had to do some opening half a degree. Good motion. Starting to take out the 1, 2.
I was kind of wondering if some of that flashing that we saw in the view might be
a little bit more, but it's very
when they pass over the SAA. You will sometimes see some artifacts in video.
6x zoom going in. Ready. All right, half inner circle for 60 seconds. Good range.
And then I think somebody mentioned talking about a fly around. I don't think that Orion is going to fly around ICPS, but ICPS still has its attitude control system, I believe, and it will maneuver to perpendicular attitude towards Orion. So both of them will maneuver, but the ICPS maneuvering is much more limited.
Copy. 15 seconds until center on center. All right, going to on and on. A higher gain there, definitely requiring some control, some more frequent control inputs. Stable there now, trying to minimize inputs and see if I can hold that stable. Copy. Okay, time's good.
Houston, translation test complete. Would you like us to go to step 16 or 18?
Perform step 16.
All right, big dab is fine. We're holding at 2.5. Centered. It's down and hold. For 1 degree, good motion, no cross coupling, half a degree, and waiting for 1 full degree of motion. Stop. Wow, stop right on the line. No cross coupling, good motion. There's half a degree going back to the center. That's very responsive.
Yeah. I'm trying to type. Let me see if I can get this into. So Orion's already separated from. So for Perfect Man, Orion's already separated from ICPS, and ICPS, from a propulsive standpoint, has already passivated. So Orion has storable propellant, and it will use that. So it's hypergolic monomethylhydrazine, nitrogen tetroxide. It will use those storable propellants to do the TLI burn tomorrow night, tomorrow evening.
Good motion. And
so
copy that, Dana. Thank you.
But you're correct in that
going back to
ICPS, even if they had not passivated ICPS, it would run out of
the window. She was able to perceive
its batteries would die well before 24 hours after launch.
Houston, we're in step 18, ready for backway.
That's one of the reasons they have to do this test so quickly, is because they need to do it while ICPS is still alive.
6 outs, starting now. 1, 2, 3.
You're hearing the voice of Pilot Victor Glover, he is backing away from the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, having completed this portion of the proximity operations demonstration.
Good opening.
This is, I believe this is similar to something that
Once
Apollo
the interim
7
cryogenic
did
propulsion
with the
stage completes its
S4B.
thermal turn, they will begin using the target on this side of the ICPS.
If I recall correctly, they didn't release the slaw panels on Apollo 7, and that was one of the changes that they
Alright, picking
put
it
in
back up at 4.
for the Apollo 8
Two
launch,
to
even though it was
cross.
right afterwards. It
2
was
is
to
pretty-
completely jettison those panels.
Glover is also able to control the brightness of the screen and of the docking camera that you see. Again, we are not docking today. This is a test of how Orion flies when done so manually, and helps us prepare for future Artemis missions.
The ICPS disposal burn is going to be done by their
We
attitude
did
control
see the crew
system.
move in all the way
So
to 10 meters from the ICPS.
it has this
They are now backing away as was planned. The interim
monopropellant
cryogenic propulsion stage
hydrazine
will
system,
make a turn,
attitude control.
and then the crew will fly in
Again,
and conduct some
So
similar
it'll
tests
basically
with a
just
side
fire those
docking
thrusters
target.
in a translational burn, and it's just to adjust
7.
the reentry footprint.
We're just over 4 hours since launch today, a very busy day for the crew.
So once they're done with this proximity operations demo,
Alright, coming up on 1.5. Going
they will.
course.
I think they'll do the disposal burn, and it's just to tweak the. It's
1,
just to
2,
tweak the
3,
entry
4,
footprint,
5, 6 in.
and then they will release
1.5.
the
Back away,
CubeSats.
complete.
Copy.
Confirmation the crew has completed backing away from the ICPS,
We're holding right at 1.5.
expecting that thermal turn to happen in about 1 minute and 20 seconds.
I believe they're
Alright, I'm
referring
doing 1x to watch the
to
thermal
the
turn.
ICPS maneuvering to a solar normal attitude.
Glover is also able to
I believe that's what they're
choose
referring
the
to. We will
zoom
see.
on the docking target. This view on the left will allow us to also see the thermal turn.
Copy.
I believe that for Artemis 3, they will still, since they're going to do a rendezvous and docking test, they will have
Gonna be
the
course.
full autonomous
Standing by for interim
rendezvous and
cryogenic
docking
propulsion
software
stage to do
on
a
Artemis
thermal
3.
turn.
8
But
pulses.
That's why
down.
they
Where
are
I see motion. I
doing
see
this
pitch on
test here.
ICPS.
ICPS thermal turn start.
All right.
Alright, here comes down.
There we go. I was gonna
Course,
say I was
1,
hoping we get to
2,
see it.
3. 8 down pulses.
So they're both
Great view
spacecraft.
of the ICPS that powered Orion
Both
during
spacecraft
the
are in
perigee raise maneuver and
motion
apogee raise burn.
at the same time,
4,
apparently.
5.
And so you can see the other docking target
8.
coming
I can
into
see
view
the side docking
down here.
target.
Yep. Right here.
That is a good looking American flag.
And so as the ICPS made
Copy.
that rotation, Orion is translating down slightly.
Again,
here.
this view coming from the docking camera on Orion, looking at the interim cryogenic propulsion stage. You can see that docking target down near the bottom of your screen.
ICPS thermal turn complete.
Copy that, Amy. We'll start working our way down.
Reminder, we are not docking today. This is a test of how it feels for pilot Victor Glover to manually fly the spacecraft.
So, well, that's a nice shot.
He's using the zoom feature on the docking camera to get exactly the view he wants as he prepares to move in and around the ICPS.
See, this well, of course now I can't do it, but the hydrogen tank in the barrel, that would be, in theory, would be the spacer that they would fly if they were going to choose to do that.
About 1.75 degrees.
And Houston, we're holding at step 20, waiting for your go.
Stand by.
So actually both Orion and ICPS are on the same deorbit trajectory right now. So this high Earth orbit has an apogee of approximately 70,000
to 2 degrees wide.
kilometers and a perigee of 1.
I just don't want to lose this in the data, Amy.
Maybe 2
separation
kilometers.
Way back when we separated from ICPS, it was very aggressive.
Integrity, you are go for approach to side target to 15 meters and to execute handling quality tests.
And that's why they need to do a perigee raise burn at about mission elapsed time of
course.
We are picking it up at
13
step 20.
hours-ish. So that's what, about 9 hours from now? Maybe a little less than 9 hours from
It's
now.
almost 2 degrees wide.
Otherwise, Orion would come back after a day.
Their course, almost to 2 degrees wide, and here comes 4 outs. 1, 2, 4.
It would be interesting.
Plus or minus a quarter, we are.
Houston, 15-meter hold is confirmed.
It would be interesting, JC, to actually
Copy.
see how much it changes the orbit. It probably does change
Orion
it,
is now
but it's
15 meters away from the interim cryogenic propulsion stage.
fairly fine.
They will not
changes
move in
to
any
the
closer.
orbit.
They're going to continue piloting the spacecraft.
3 left coming in now. 1, 2, 3. Good motion. Lateral, we might have a tad bit of closure and coming right to 2. All right. Yeah, about a quarter of a degree, less than a quarter of a degree up to 3 rights, 2.1 degrees wide. Good motion.
Yeah, I'm going to try and do the same thing, Trevor. It's probably going to be hard. I'm used to getting up early in the morning, and now this is going to be. This is going to be, you know.
Stop it. 1,
This is going to be for the folks who like to get up late and stay up late.
3. Three downs. 2, 3. Start measuring from the center. There's center. Good motion.
And Houston, with this sun angle, the white paint on the ICPS is so illuminated.
Half a degree.
It's hard to look at with the naked eye.
1,
Houston copies.
2, 3. And we picked up a little bit of motion to the left on ICPS. Stopping that, correcting it back up. 1, 2, 3 to bring it back to center. Also correcting left. Good motion.
– 46 minutes since the start of the proximity operations demonstration.
1, 2. All right. 2.1 degrees wide.
The degrees you hear pilot Victor Glover reporting are the amount of space that the docking target is taking up in his view that you're seeing here on the docking camera.
Copy. 6X, does it say? Okay, I'm in 6X, ready.
And Houston, can you confirm 6X zoom is good for 21.3?
Checking.
It
Good range. Good time.
6X zoom is good.
Starting the lateral alignment test.
It looks like the crew day today goes till around mission elapsed time of about 7 hours, and so we just saw them. We're around MET of 4 hours right now, give or take. So another 3 hours, and then they get into pre-sleep.
Good range.
The actual
Just inside 2.
The actual
inside 15 meters.
Sleep period begins around an MET of 8.5 hours.
Low gain inputs, not doing a whole lot of commanding. It's holding quite steady. When I'm not doing anything, it's holding nice and steady. The camera and the vehicle are holding steady. It's almost at the center.
They're going to do. They're scheduled to do
for center on center.
A PAO, another PAO event
Cross
around
over docking hatch cross.
MET of 6 hours. So that'd be what, 12:30 a.m. approximately Eastern.
All right, we're starting precision.
That's actually not that far away from now.
Higher gain, higher frequency of inputs. It's very responsive. I just have to make inputs because it does seem to pick up lateral motion. Commanding.
So let's see, MET of 7 hours.
I'm able to hold the magenta cross within the width of the black cross on the side without. I was talking, it went out, but overall, able to keep it centered. Less moderate or less effort. Okay, complete.
Yeah, I don't think
it's in translation. The test complete.
The PAO event's probably just going to be
Copy, and you are go for the multi-axis test. And Reed, you are coming in much lower volume than Victor.
Okay, I will speak up in the cabin mic.
That's better. Thanks.
They're probably going to do.
Again, pilot
they're
Victor
not going to take
on the
questions
left side of your screen
from
is
anybody.
manually piloting the spacecraft.
They will just. They may.
Executing the
they
6
may talk
degrees of
about
freedom,
the day
translating
or
forward, backward,
something
left,
like
right,
that.
up, and down, and rotating the pitch, yaw, and roll of Orion in relation to the interim cryogenic propulsion stage.
So yeah, as acting unit says, I'm not sure I'm going to stay up for that. I need a nap more than the crew does, I think. So, this is going to be an interesting couple of days, and then I think after flight day 2 tomorrow,
left RHC, right on THC.
Hopefully, we can sort of reset a little bit. They were having some.
And I'll get the yaw out to 2 degrees. It's there.
The mic he's using is called the cabin mic, and we heard
it's just side of 2.
We heard they were having some issues earlier. Christina was trying to use it, and
Integrity Houston, no action on the caution warning messages.
The cabin mic was just low.
Give it some ends.
We copy that, Amy.
All right, lateral motion is nulled.
You can hear the difference in the quality of the
355 for 355
between Victor and Reed. I think Victor's using his.
Focusing on range. Out. Got a little.
I don't know if he's using his like Snoopy cap but he's using a different headset.
Some dynamics there
device.
At the beginning, going yaw, then translation, but caught up. Was able to correct it out without many problems. Moderate or less workload. Now it's very stable. Just focusing on range. 50 for 345, and at 345 we go.
Yeah, sorry. To answer the question, as somebody else, John said,
50 for 345.
They have not announced a crew for Artemis III or Artemis IV yet. I think we saw the 0G indicator, but I don't know. Don't know if we saw it in orbit yet. We did see
48 for 3.5, nice and stable, so we're in a good position to go course.
We saw Rise hanging while the vehicle was on the pad as the closeout crew was sort of
the crew is
evacuating
on the
crew
and about 2
compartment.
minutes away from their multi-degree of freedom yaw test.
7 for 3.5. 6. Yeah, that rate has gone down quite a bit. 5, there's picked up course.
Getting Artemis II underway.
Yeah, the yaw rate had dropped off a bit. I put it back in.
Getting Artemis II underway is a big deal
go discreet.
In terms of getting to the point where they can name the Artemis III crew.
342.
Because it's very likely it's going to be, well, it is definitely now. It's going to come after Artemis II is completed. And it'll depend a little bit on how well Artemis II goes.
Stabilize.
I mean, if it goes as well as the first day's gone, it should be a very successful mission.
Range has opened a bit. Actually, we're looking nice right at 2. Okay, ready. Course. Stand by. It's nice and stable.
Reed was the chief of the astronaut office, but I believe he
get out of course and just go find to try to know a little bit.
He stepped down, I think,
oscillating around center
to allow
I'm ready.
To put himself in, to allow himself to be selected, but he didn't select himself. I think that may have happened early on in shuttle, and I think at some point the astronaut office made a rule that wasn't going to happen
anymore. Good
anymore.
yaw rate. I'll watch the yaw rate closer this time. Fine.
Yeah, TLI burn is probably about 25 hours.
Okay.
Mission elapsed time.
To me, I did that in before to find.
Yeah, it'll be
all right. Going out.
The remainder of the burn will be completed by Orion.
Of course.
Tomorrow.
Out.
There aren't any plans to
All right, there we go. I see opening.
There aren't any plans for a 24-hour orbit like this before TLI.
All right, that yaw rate is slightly dropping off. I'm 348.
If the rumors about the Starship TLI burn are true,
355 going.
Then it's possible that we would see something similar to this, though. It's just, in that case, Orion would have to rendezvous and dock with Starship in one of these highly eccentric Earth orbits, assuming that they were going to do a high Earth orbit rendezvous and docking on Artemis IV ahead of TLI. It's also possible that they would do, maybe a medium Earth orbit, like a circular orbit, or, we will have to see. Because it's also possible that Blue Origin is the provider for Artemis IV instead of SpaceX and Starship.
Stabilize all the motion and correct it. Going up on 0.
I'm sure they could. They could rotate. I don't think this crew would complain about getting to fly the next mission, but I don't think they expect to, and I think it's in the best interest
all right, we're stabilized,
of the astronaut office to get more.
Houston, yaw multi-axis test complete.
It's I think in everyone's interest to get more people, more astronauts, flight time on these systems.
I do.
So that you can actually see some of the helium bottles, the composite overwrapped pressure vessels, when we're talking about that with relation to the helium quick disconnect that caused them to roll back.
Okay, I think we've stopped the opening.
So they've actually already left low Earth orbit. The orbit they're in right now has a high point.
Houston, we're in instruction 167. TTIG is not yet quite within 29. Waiting your instructions.
They went from an orbit that was about 2,200 kilometers by 30 kilometers.
Reed, ready for you to go to instruction 169. You are go for the multi-axis maneuver biased tail to sun.
They're in an orbit now of about 70,000 kilometers by essentially 0. So they're headed up to apogee.
Coming up on 1 hour since separation from the Separation from the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, again, almost an hour ago,
Of course.
and now 4 hours and 20 minutes since liftoff. We are getting closer to the tail end of the ProxOps demonstration.
So they'll get up to about the 70,000 kilometer apogee about
Again,
12
during this
hours,
demonstration,
12,
Victor
13
Glover,
hours
the pilot
after
aboard Orion,
liftoff.
was manually piloting the Orion spacecraft in relation to the interim cryogenic propulsion stage. You can see that ICPS on the left side of your screen, and the ICPS visible through the docking camera.
1.75. 356 for 353. Copy. 355.
Of course, we're not docking to anything on the Artemis II mission, but this
Of course.
test helps us understand how Orion flies manually and helps us prepare for future missions when we'll need to dock to a lunar lander.
So yes, the 0 kilometer perigee is a deorbit. It basically
The
have
commands Glover has been sending
You'd
to
have to throw another yaw in there to keep it at 0.2. Yeah. Overall, guys, this flies very nicely. Copy. 347 for pulse.
this. You have a series of essentially high apogee and
what
suborbital
Glover's using
perigee.
to command the spacecraft, the translational and rotational hand controllers.
Very precise.
So the
3x set.
core stage does the first one. So you've got the 2200 by
Exit 358.
30
Pitch
kilometer
down,
orbit,
going in.
which is suborbital
Orion
on the
is
perigee
using
side.
the 24 reaction control system thrusters.
And then you have
on
the
the European
70,000 by
service module.
0.
Set.
And in between those two, they did a quick burn to raise the perigee up to 185 kilometers so that when they got
All right,
down
going
there,
back
they
to
didn't
center.
re-enter.
So
And they're going to
course.
do the same thing
Thank you,
again
the dock count,
on the
target
second
back to
orbit.
center.
So they will temporarily raise the perigee from 0 back
Focus
up
on
to
being
about
stable.
185 kilometers. That's that perigee raise burn that's coming
Yeah,
up
the
at about
thruster firings are a lot less
MET of
aggressive
12
than we thought it
hours,
would sound
13
or feel.
hours.
Like driving on a gravelly road. The response is quite immediate. Not all the X's are even. Roll is very, very slow, but pitch and yaw are very snappy and responsive. And when you have the zoom set right, you can see very small motions, and so translations are all quite tight and very nicely balanced.
Houston, are you ready for the ATP for depart tail sun?
Affirm.
If I heard that correctly, it sounds like they're getting ready to do the SEP burn and then
Inertial. Just
maneuver.
going for stable. And we're stable.
Step 25.
And then they would eventually, after they've separated.
Currently, Orion is about 15 meters away from the interim cryogenic propulsion stage. At the conclusion of the proximity operations demonstration,
You
Minus
are ready
26.
now for the depth 18 to 30 depth.
They'll eventually maneuver to a tail to sun attitude for Orion. That's their sort of stable baseline
And
case,
Reed, please repeat.
best thermal attitude for long periods of time.
Holding on instruction 185, just want to make sure you are ready for depth 18 and go for departure.
Go for depth 18 and go for departure.
Okay, so it's departure burn as opposed to separation
Copy,
burn.
Houston. That's in word.
It's probably more precise way of putting
Capcom
it.
Amy Dill calling to the crew. They are go for departure from the interim cryogenic propulsion stage.
3 outs. Houston, integrity departure initiated.
Copy.
Orion is now backing away from the interim cryogenic propulsion stage. The proximity operations demonstration is complete. Coming up next, we will have the upper stage separation burn, providing distance between Orion and the ICPS.
Oh, wow, look at that. Wow.
Is that sort of a hot mic? The you can hear Lee
Copy.
Cheshire.
Going off, Fox. Very
talking
fine
about
with
that.
you, Houston. Nice vehicle.
Great job, Victor, and to the entire crew, and we enjoyed your excitement at seeing ICPS out the window.
So as you heard there, so Orion's made their departure burn. The ICPS.
I am bringing the exposure control down to 1 so that we get some video. Let us know if you want that higher for your bearing test.
So they'll do a.
Setting of 1 is good for us.
They'll do the ICPS will do an attitude control system burn, a first translational burn as a separation to increase the opening rate between the two, and then eventually it'll come off and do the.
This is a live view from the Vehicle Ascent and Launch Operations Room. This is Valor.
Valor, hey, there you go.
The ULA launch team support room.
I heard some folks
They
talking
are
about this
responsible for
in one of
observing
the Discords.
any program issues that may require their experience to correctly detect and assess. They've been monitoring the health of the ICPS prior to launch.
Houston, no action on the cautions.
I think they know they're on camera now.
They've been monitoring ICPS since before launch, through launch, and obviously during the proximity operations until the ICPS end of mission.
And so they still have probably at least a couple of hours, well, something like that, maybe a little bit more, a little less, but a couple of hours more.
Back inside
ULA
Orion, we are
still has a couple hours
expecting
more
their upper
work
stage
before,
separation burn.
as
Again,
Lee was saying,
that
the
will take them away
ICPS
from the
end of
interim
mission.
cryogenic propulsion stage very shortly. The interim cryogenic propulsion stage will then conduct its own disposal burn and will burn up upon re-entry over Earth's atmosphere over the Pacific
This is
Ocean.
this gives you a good sort of reference for how long that nozzle extension is for the RL10, for this version of the RL10.
This view of the interim cryogenic propulsion stage.
Copy.
I hope that they're getting some nice shots.
4 hours, 27 minutes since Orion launched.
ICPS is stable in the DocCam field of view. We are going to stay in authority DAP, and we are going to discontinue all manual THC inputs.
Copy, Reed. Please take DocCam exposure to 0, wait 20 seconds, and then take back to 1.
ICAS, that didn't work.
Thanks.
As you heard Capcom Amy Dill ask the crew, they are able to control the exposure that we see from the docking camera down on the bottom right side of your screen as the interim cryogenic propulsion stage gets farther and farther away. That's actually Orion backing away from the ICPS, having recently completed the proximity operations demonstration, during which pilot Victor Glover manually flew Orion. On the left side of your screen, you can see Glover in the left. He's currently in seat 1, having conducted those prox ops. And on the right is NASA astronaut and commander of Artemis II, Reed Wiseman.
And Houston, here comes the ATP for our pod to coast.
We're ready.
Well,
Houston, we are going to 12.2.2515 USS-2 burn execution.
Okay, so
We're with you.
that's the Orion, so they're going to do another upper stage separation burn. This one might be a little bit probably similar magnitude, maybe a little bit more, but again, just to continue to open. And so, yeah, I think somebody's talking about the difference between the thrusters and the thrusters here on the European service module and the ones on Starliner. And as somebody was it JC who was talking about, yeah, the Starliner dog houses are probably different design than for the Orion RCS. It's, same concept, I think, generally speaking, but just different implementation.
Four hours and 30 minutes since liftoff today of Orion, also referred to as Integrity, atop the Space Launch System rocket at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The crew continues to back away from the ICPS, the interim cryogenic propulsion stage that was used for the perigee raise maneuver, and the apogee raise burn that put them in the high Earth orbit where they're at now. Coming up shortly is the upper stage separation burn.
Jolie, I think we're going to have to just wait and see.
Upper stage separation provides what we need to distance Orion and the interim cryogenic propulsion stage even further. The ICPS will have its own disposal burn.
Houston, for awareness, 2 minutes until ICPS maneuvers.
We should be able to get assuming that they provide those someplace that Mission Control can downlink those. They're closer to Earth right now in this orbit than they will be once they head out towards the moon. So, at least perhaps photos during this first several hours
Houston, we're checking with you and step
will be
forward,
pardon me. It is getting. The day's getting long here for me too. But
Go to continue. Ready for ATP.
They probably, I mean, I know we heard them a little while ago hand over from TDRS to the Deep Space Network.
Houston,
but
ATP burn config is go.
there's I don't know when they're going to do the first optical comm system test. It may be tomorrow, but they may still be close enough where they don't
This view live in Artemis Mission Control here at Johnson Space
where
Center in
they can
Houston
downlink
as the
a
Orbit 1
significant
team
amount of
continues
data.
monitoring the flight of Orion on the Artemis II mission. We've just completed the proximity operations demo, during which pilot Victor Glover manually flew the Orion spacecraft, the first time anyone has done so. And we're preparing for the upper stage separation burn to separate Orion from the interim cryogenic propulsion stage even further.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Major burns after this point are using the OMS, the Orbital Maneuvering Service Engine, on the European Service Module. There are also some 24 reaction control system thrusters on the European Service Module.
Yeah, it would be. They should have lower bandwidth the farther away they are. However,
Integrity ICPS maneuver in work.
They should also be. They're closer than they will be, when they get halfway out to the moon, for instance.
The interim cryogenic propulsion stage making an additional maneuver ahead of the USS-2 burn. That USS-2 burn coming from Orion. The ICPS will have its own disposal burn and will burn up upon re-entry over the Pacific Ocean.
It's a good question whether the video is coming down from Deep Space Network or not versus TDRS. That I'm not so sure. They may be taking advantage of both of them. But yeah, I believe the perigee raise burn is somewhere around T plus 13 hours, and so that's So that would be, what, around 7:30 a.m. or thereabouts Eastern time tomorrow. I think they may release an updated mission. Well, I hope that they do mission timeline. If there aren't any significant changes to the timeline, the summary timeline that we got, and it's a long time ago, it was back in January, then that's fine. Yeah, they will. The crew, I believe the crew's first nap period begins around 8.5 hours, MET of 8.5 hours, and it's about 4. Let me go look at that again. Maybe 4 hours. So they go from about 8.5 MET of 8.5 hours to MET of 12.5 hours, and then the perigee burn is in there. It says here 13 hours 45 minutes. And then they have so they'll be up for, what is that? Half, 1.5. So they'll actually be up for 2.5 hours in between. So they got a 4-hour sleep period, 2.5 hours up, and then another 4.5 hours. They get their second nap for 4.5 hours. That sometimes happens.
Again, live here in Mission Control Houston, Artemis Mission Control, to be exact. Just down the hall from the International Space Station Mission Control Room, also flying with humans aboard 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have completed the proximity operations demonstration aboard Orion, and we are now looking ahead to the upper stage separation burn. This provides distance from between Orion and the ICPS. The ICPS will have its own disposal burn at about 5 hours MET. We are now 4 hours and 37 minutes MET, or time since launch.
So on the summary timeline, they had the Orion upper stage SEP burn around 4 hours 52 minutes. So we're what about? She thinks we're about 15 minutes away from that or thereabouts. I'm not sure that we're necessarily. I don't know how photogenic.
It's been a long day for the crew aboard Orion, and they still have a few tasks to complete before they can go to bed tonight. Of course, we'll have the upper stage separation burn that they will need to monitor. They'll continue doffing and stowing suits.
Houston's here.
Can you confirm what status you want us for suit drying?
Checking.
So this might be, we might hear some toilet troubleshooting here somewhere. Or at least getting ready to do that. Once they probably won't actually do anything until after the burn.
And Integrity, can you confirm that you did the glove swap activity?
Negative, we did not do the glove swap activity.
This is the white flight control room. I don't know what.
All right, when able, you can do the glove swap activity, and then we'll need a 15-minute timer, and then we'll be ready to terminate suit drying.
I know they have a red Ficker,
Integrity,
and I don't think that's used for ISS necessarily either, but they can configure any of those rooms to support any of those flight control rooms to support whatever, ISS or Orion. Obviously, ISS has the continuous flight control
Solar arrays are now in motion ahead of the USS 2 burn, the upper stage separation 2 burn. And with proximity operations complete, we will look forward to hearing from pilot Victor Glover how it felt to fly Orion. But just before his launch, we got to ask him how it felt and how he was looking forward to it.
As a test pilot, the opportunity to fly a spaceship is just a dream. It's unreal. The piloting role specifically, I will have an hour and a half or so where I get to fly the spacecraft by hand, and we fly Orion a lot in the simulator to train, but also to build an experience base for how the teams on the ground think Orion's going to work. And then when we fly Orion in space, we're actually going to compare the two to help them make better models. My inner test pilot is of course, very excited about that. But really, the point of this is to make sure that Orion is a safe spacecraft so that we can go and do more complicated missions without having to think about, do we need to have a test pilot on every mission to fly this spacecraft? So far, I really like the way Orion flies, but it's only been in the simulator. And so the ability to fly one actually in space on a test mission is just a really unique opportunity.
Again, those words from pilot Victor Glover before his flight aboard Orion, and reflecting on how it's been to fly Orion in the simulator for those proximity operations demonstrations. Now he has gotten to do the real thing today, with ProxOps having just completed about 10 minutes ago. This view live inside Artemis Mission Control at Johnson Space Center in Houston as the crew continues to move away from the ICPS ahead of that upper stage separation burn.
So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they're doing in terms of suit drying. I mean, it may just be trying to expose,
all
turning things inside out as much as you can. For instance,
the upper stage separation burn.
Integrity Houston, we are checking on those cautions.
Orion is now maneuvering into the proper attitude ahead of that upper stage separation burn.
Yeah, I mean it has been it's been a very successful day, and the mission itself's only been 5 hours long. So, but of course, most of the day was spent in countdown. But yeah, I considering they ended up having to deal with a few issues that required a decent amount of troubleshooting. I would not have predicted that they would launch only 10 minutes into the launch window based on what we saw there at the end. And it may be, in terms of drying the suits, pardon me, that this is just, maybe they just hang them up in the crew cabin. There's obviously fans going on, the air is being circulated, and it's probably not tremendously humid, for instance, just not good for computer equipment or anything else typically, so you wouldn't want it to be particularly humid. But then they'll want to stow them out of the way at some point. So it may be sort of a protocol where they leave them out, sort of extended, to let them dry out, so to speak, before they stow them away, so that they can just provide more room inside the habitable volume. But yeah, I mean, there've been, we've heard, this or that caution and warning message, but
Orion continuing to maneuver into its proper attitude ahead of the upper stage separation burn.
I think
after this burn, the crew has a little more work to do before they can go to sleep. It's been a long day for them, having woken up about 8 hours before launch.
The toilet, I do think, is something that needs to be that they're going to need to deal with. I'm not sure what that might not be, cut and dry in
The crew
terms
aboard
of
Orion will continue stowing their suits
go for TLI
and
tomorrow.
configuring the cabin as they need it for the duration of the flight.
At Integrity Houston, those caution warning messages for prop were seen on manifolds being used for maneuver to burn attitude. Still go for USS-2.
Integrity copy. Still go for USS-2. Thanks for the updates. And the crescent Earth from almost 20,000 miles looks amazing.
Thanks for that report.
Wow. I don't know if they're looking at their displays. If so, they may mean 20,000 nautical miles. I do think that's kind of the question: is what is the toilet working? I'd have to go back and hear exactly how they described it. But I think we'll hear something depending on how, critical is probably too strong of a word
Upper
here,
stage separation burn for Orion.
how
coming
important
up
this
in
is to
about
whether
4
or not they're
minutes.
go for TLI tomorrow.
We're now
But
4 hours and 46 minutes since liftoff.
if
This view coming live from the spacecraft, looking at one of the solar arrays. Those solar arrays are now swept forward, and that protects them from any loads imparted when we conduct this upper stage separation burn.
I believe there may be a website, which I'm just not aware of, Tim, that gives you real-time display. I believe there is. I know somebody was asking about it earlier, so there is actually, that's a good point, Trevor. I don't know if they have that capability for this launch. It was it depended on which day they launched in a particular launch period. They could, when they do have that capability, they did have the ability to do a wave off and basically do a second 24-hour orbit. So that may be an option. Again, it's hard to
2
tell
minutes until the upper stage separation burn.
Hard to tell how serious of an issue
This will be the last burn
it is
of
with the toilet
the
right now,
evening.
though.
The crew will continue stowing their suits. They'll configure the cabin. They will also have their private medical conference. These are scheduled every single day to allow the crew to report how they're feeling down to team members here on Earth.
The shuttle toilet is a lot bigger than this one.
For the evening. They will only get a few hours of sleep to start. They're going to wake up essentially in the middle of this nap for the perigee raise burn. That burn will set us up for translunar injection tomorrow. And translunar injection burn is what will commit us to flying by the moon and also serves as our deorbit burn.
Yeah, I mean, the orbiter crew compartment was just a much larger. Just the crew compartment itself was much larger. But
less than a minute now until the upper stage separation burn.
Okay, we may see. This upper stage separation burn may just be using the auxiliary thrusters. She did say it may be a main engine burn. I don't know if she said. We'll probably may get a sense just looking at it here. You know, that might have been it right there. Fairly short burn. Of course, actually, that flash may have just been ignition, though.
Integrity Houston, no action on the ohms caution.
Okay, so it may have been ohms burn.
Integrity copies.
And we have confirmation of the upper stage segment burn, start and complete, very short burn.
And Integrity Houston, no action on the RCS prop cautions. Let's taking a look.
The
Okay, copy. And we show about 10 seconds to go on a trim burn.
yeah, as JC said, I'm here in Houston.
Good. Attitude is stable.
I didn't want to get into a situation where,
Copy.
you know, if I was at KSC right now and trying to get here for the status briefing tomorrow, your options in terms of flights are kind of limited, and if you get stuck somewhere. And so
Integrity Houston, good USS-2 burn.
as much as spectacular as a launch looked
Integrity copies, good USS-2.
on TV, it's still
Confirmation of a successful USS-2 burn, upper stage separation. This view live from Orion. You can see on the right the solar array.
I knew there.
Calls from Capcom.
I've already seen some of the NSF footage of the launch, and so I'm hoping to. You know, I saw it in the NSF live stream. I'm hoping to see more of it. But
action is needed from the crew at this time.
There's gonna be tons of incredible footage of the launch, and so I'm not. You miss the experience of being there in person because you feel that as much as you see it, but again, the purpose for my channel is to cover the mission, and so it would have been difficult to cover the countdown even today, even though I didn't do as much coverage with the NSF live stream today as I thought maybe going into it, but you know, that's not that big of a deal, and so let me see. Okay. So going back to the toilet. So we still need to find out.
Procedure 12.2.2515 USS-2 burn execution. Confirm you will complete remaining post-burn reconfig, and we will exit the procedure.
We concur. We'll take it from here.
If it really was serious, then maybe they could do a wave off. That would give them a whole extra day to work on that. That's the thing, is it's really hard to tell. Again, if I hopefully can finish the thought, but the initial description that I'd heard.
Operations complete and the upper stage separation burn complete as well. We are now looking to the ICPS, or interim cryogenic propulsion stage disposal burn. We will not see this or get data on it. It will burn up upon reentry over Earth's atmosphere over the Pacific Ocean.
I think that the hypothesis is that something was jamming the fan, and that they needed to go in there and
Houston Integrity, I'm going
take a
to
look.
request to suppress the SEMA 300.
Copy and checking.
And I believe, yes, if they did do that wave off,
And Reed, we will suppress from the ground the CMS 300 caution.
then it would extend the mission by a day, essentially. And so that's the question, Jolie, it's hard to tell. How we don't know how serious this is at this point. I do remember hearing them talk about they took along the Apollo bags, which is kind of as you would imagine what those are. But again, I thought that they'd mentioned that they only took about a day's worth of bags. Now, again, that might have been sort of an exaggeration, because the point they were making is that they do want the toilet. They want to test it out and make sure that it works. So, but we don't know how serious the problem is. Again, it may be that. And the other thing that they said was, and I didn't copy it down, was because they were talking to Christina about it, was that it one of the functions was it was partially functional, and so that's another variable here in terms of, I don't know whether that whatever is non-functional right now is more critical than what is. So I think, again, they went into activating that relatively soon, and I think part of the reason why is because, not necessarily because they need it, but is probably for a situation just like this, where if they left this until right before the burn tomorrow, they would have less time to troubleshoot it.
Very low priority. Let me know when you have 2 minutes for boom mic troubleshooting.
We have the time.
Okay, Amy, as we're learning how to use this mic, I'm talking at a conversational level with the mic about a half a centimeter from my mouth. How do you hear me right now?
This is the other thing that they've been talking about for a while, which is what the cabin mic. That might be correct, that it was solid is functional, liquid is not.
It's a bit better. It's about 3 or 4 by 5.
Okay, Amy, and now I am talking to you with the tip of the boom mic pressed against my upper lip, so I have lip contact on the mic. How's this now?
5 by 5.
Okay, I will let the crew know. Thank you.
We copy.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Traffic. Usually, it's funny, I didn't see that many launches from the Cape, but I for whatever reason, it always seemed like the traffic was, even though it sounds like you're saying it was pretty bad, it still seemed like the traffic after a scrub was even worse. So, I think you can turn it on, and you can, kind of like, I'm here in a hotel. You get in the hotel, and if you've done this enough times, you sort of learn to try and test things out before you unpack, in case they aren't working, like hot water and toilet and so on. So you can probably flush the toilet, so to speak, without filling it up, so to speak. So I think there's probably some.
In Integrity Houston on 1, whenever you're ready, we do have some toilet troubleshooting action.
Hey, what do you know? So maybe we'll get kind of a big picture here. So they're talking toilet troubleshooting. So it's at least important enough to talk about it right now.
Okay, Houston.
Wow.
We copy on
2 hours.
Toilet. We have 1 stowage delta for you. Let me know when you're ready to copy.
Let's see, KSC.
We're ready for stowage delta.
When did...
Very simple. The PWD cover is in Foxtrot 2, not Foxtrot 3.
So, Joe, you're saying 2 hours from KSC to Cocoa
We
Beach
copy.
On Route 3. I can visualize that, unfortunately.
Okay, Amy, just give us about 2 minutes and we'll be ready for the toilet orders.
Where were you starting from?
Standing by.
From the visitors complex? Yeah, it's funny. Again, like I said, I didn't get a chance to go to that many launches, but there were, and of course, I also was much younger, and so there were a lot of times where I'm like, actually now, like if you had an e-bike now, or or even just, just put on a backpack and walk it. Okay, so let's see. I mean, I don't know about 2 hours, but I could see that. So where we are right now is, I'm not sure pardon me, I don't know what...
And we have confirmation that the interim cryogenic propulsion stage burn has started. Again, this is a disposal burn. The ICPS will re-enter Earth's atmosphere and harmlessly burn up over the Pacific Ocean.
So Orion...
Additionally, we are expecting the CubeSats to be released soon. These will be released from the Orion stage adapter on the Space Launch System upper stage into a high Earth orbit, where they will conduct an orbital maneuver to reach their own desired orbit. These are 5 CubeSats from space agencies including Germany, South Korea, Saudi Arabia, and Argentina. They have their own distinct objectives completely separate from NASA's mission. And these CubeSats are shoebox-sized payloads that have the potential to expand our knowledge of the space environment. The German Space Agency, or DLR's Tacheles CubeSat, will measure effects of the space environment on electrical components to inform technologies for lunar vehicles. The Korea Aerospace Administration, or CASA's KRAD Cube, will use a dosimeter made of human-like tissue to measure space radiation and biological effects across the Van Allen radiation belts. The Saudi Space Agency's Saudi Geomagnetosphere Satellite, or SHMS CubeSat, will measure space weather at a range of distances from Earth. And Argentina's Comisión Nacional de Actividades Espaciales, or CONE, has a CubeSat called Etna, which will assess radiation shielding methods, measuring Earth's radiation spectrum, collecting GPS data, and validating a long-range communications link. By working with other countries to fly these,
Houston's here.
Hey, Amy. Without knowing what's going on later this day, how important is the 4K encoder setup?
Checking.
So I think somebody was asking where we are. So they finished the proximity operations demonstration, and then they basically just did a separation burn.
Integrity Houston on 1 for timeline big picture.
Oh, that sounds like Jeff.
All 4 crew members are here, Jeff.
That's the flight director.
Hey, it's been a great day, guys, and we're going to try and get you to bed a little bit early today. We do want to do the 4K encoder setup, as well as the toilet troubleshooting. I don't think it'll take very long. Ideally, we'd get that done here in the next hour or so, along with the conferences, and then get you guys to bed a little bit early. That's what we're thinking down here.
Jeff, that all sounds great to us. I have a couple pieces of information if you have no further updates.
All right, we're ready to copy.
All right, just how we're going to break up the crew right now to handle this. Victor is the lead for suit drying and suit stowage. And we show that we have had glove swap for about 15 minutes, so we could probably move on there. How copy?
We copy.
Okay, Jeremy is going to be the cabin config supervisor. He is going to get into cabin config, but as his first activity, he is going to get a power chain set up with the Cobalt brick, and then he will work 4K encoder, and I will help him. How copy?
We copy.
Christina is going to work the toilet troubleshooting with you, so when you all are ready, if you are happy with what Ike, with what Victor and Jeremy are doing, I will hand the comm and the toilet lead over to Christina.
Copy. Stand by for data rate change.
So again, that Christina was the one who was
View
working the
inside
toilet
Mission
activation
Control
earlier,
Houston, specifically
and so she's going to
Artemis Mission
continue.
Control, as the crew was reporting down some of their tasks that they're continuing to work on at the end of this flight day. It's been a very busy day for the crew so far, again waking up about 8 hours before liftoff, which was now 5 hours and 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, I think
After a successful
I'm
ride
kinda
to orbit,
curious.
they saw the perigee raise maneuver, the apogee raise burn, and got into the proximity operations demonstration. They then conducted the upper stage separation burn to depart the interim cryogenic propulsion stage. That's put us into our current configuration. The crew is working inside the cabin to configure it, to configure where they will stow their suits, and we'll eventually get into some pre-sleep and sleep opportunities before the apogee raise burn in the middle of the night.
You can see that on the summary timeline that was released. If you're looking for that, Trevor. I'm sorry, or maybe it's
That'll actually be the perigee raise burn in the middle of the
overview
night. They
timeline.
will wake up from a brief nap and monitor
Could be
that
referred to
perigee
both
raise
ways.
burn before getting some more sleep and starting their next flight day tomorrow.
and I'm gonna try and do that. Except I may cheat and go to bed before the crew does.
Integrity Houston, back with you.
But it sounds like this might, again, without knowing how serious this
We have
is.
you loud and clear.
Same, and last we copied is that Christina will work toilet troubleshooting.
That's a good read, and I'm ready for those words when you are.
Okay, Christina, first, we do not think empty oxone beads were installed for launch, so we do not suspect a blockage. We think it could be a priming issue. So the first thing we'd like you to do is to verify the toilet air filter barrier is removed. And I have a step number from toilet step and activation procedure if you need it. Let us know when that's complete, and then we're going to power cycle the toilet from the ground and have further steps for you.
And so that's kind of the question here is,
Okay, I copy all. Before we continue, are we go to swap the suit drying? And correction, are we go to terminate the suit drying?
Go for suit drying termination.
that I think is the question is how serious.
Copy. And Amy, for the air filter barrier removal, is that the nominal removal that's in the toilet setup and activation procedure that I ran?
Affirm, it was step 5.
Yes, I did complete that step.
Copy, standby.
So while they're troubleshooting this, while they've picked it up, we're still trying to determine.
Okay, copy. We are going to power cycle the toilet, and then we'll give you a call back to attempt reactivation with removing the urine hose from the cradle and allowed to run for 1 minute. And then we would also like you to have available 250 milliliters of water. And we're not ready for that yet. We'll let you know when the power cycle is complete.
So there you go. That's the priming that they're talking about. So if they don't have anything handy, so to speak, to test the urine, water will do. But yeah, again, big picture, it's hard to tell how serious of an issue this is, other than I guess the fact that we're seeing them continue to work this, at the end of a long day, while they're trying hard to get the crew to bed early.
Christina Cook, NASA astronaut,
does
and
seem
mission
to be
specialist,
important.
continuing to troubleshoot the issues they saw earlier with the toilet. The teams here on the ground are relaying up instructions on how to resolve that situation.
And I think we've been talking about this again. I would not be. this is, I'm sure the crew is more interested in this in some respects, but this would not be such a big deal, I don't think, if, for instance, they were already on their way to the moon. But because it might impact either whether they do TLI or when they do it, there may be, if they really do have an issue and this is important enough, perhaps they would consider a quote unquote TLI wave off, which basically means that you just continue in this. They're not quite in the orbit right now. So right now, as we were talking about earlier, the perigee of this high Earth orbit at the moment is essentially 0, and so it would re-enter without any additional burn. That's the burn that they're going to do at about mission elapsed time of 13 hours. I think actually it's going to be more like 13 hours 45 minutes if that old timeline is correct. So that would be what, 8:30. Well, so it would be more like 8:15. Again, I'm approximately 8:15 a.m. Eastern in the morning. So that's a decently far away, enough away to get some sleep, I suppose. Oh no, I'm doing this wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm doing this wrong. I think 13. Is that right? It's getting late. That seems like too far away because we're already. Let's see, we're at MET. We're at probably like MET 5 hours and change. Well, yeah, more than that, 5 hours and change. So 8 hours. No, I guess okay, 8 hours. So it's still a ways away, but that will raise the perigee up so that they could continue to do that 24-hour orbit again if they needed to. But again, we haven't heard anything suggesting that they can't fix this. They will have a decent amount of time tomorrow to if they need to continue to troubleshoot this. So, and so, but again, that's, I think, because we don't know because it's not totally clear.
Integrity Houston for cab camera 2.
Since it's not clear how serious this is, we're sort of hanging around here for a little bit. I'll hang out here for another few minutes.
Hey, Christina, for your and the crew's awareness, you may see the cab camera 2 light turn on. We are not streaming video. We're just getting a listing of files.
Copy.
And Integrity Houston for Christina and toilet troubleshooting.
Go ahead.
Okay, Christina, we're ready for you to attempt reactivation of toilet by removing the urine hose from the cradle. Please allow it to run for 1 minute, and then if that's joy, you can deactivate toilet and give us a call.
Copy, and understand I'm not putting the water in the funnel at this time.
Correct. Not yet. Not for this time.
In work.
I think they were talking about the cabin, one of the cabin cameras.
Capcom Amy Dill relaying some words to NASA astronaut Christina Cook on how to troubleshoot the toilet issue they experienced earlier. We should hear shortly the resolution of that issue. This view from Mission Control Houston, Artemis Mission Control, now 5 hours and 14 minutes since liftoff of Orion atop the Space Launch System.
But it sounds like this procedure that she's going to run the system without priming it first. So I guess run the fan, run the system just with air for a minute, and then turn it off, and then at some point they'll use a fluid with similar characteristics to urine. Yeah, and I'm not sure which cabin camera that is. If it's that overhead, we were looking at the one behind the two pilot seats during the Proxops demo, and then there was the one where you could see the Rise 0G indicator back on the launch pad, and you could really see the Jeremy Hansen and Christina Cook's seats better from that one. So, but I'm not sure. But yeah, they're probably doing an inventory, and they would perhaps look to pull those, maybe pull that data overnight, perhaps. So I think that's, I'm going to try and hang on here until we get at least a little bit of an idea about the toilet. I did not see this being the last thing I would do today is monitoring toilet troubleshooting.
Test complete, good status light, good flow for the entire test.
Okay.
Good news, Christina, and we are discussing next steps. Stand by.
I mean, I don't know that it's an oversight, Jolie. I think they had a rationale for whatever they did. I don't know that we know exactly how they stocked, because again, when you're, it's like there's the 15-second answer to a question about this pre-flight, and then there's the more detailed answer, and I don't know if we know exactly, because
NASA astronaut Christina Cook reporting they had a successful test of the toilet.
And Integrity Houston, Christina, for toilet troubleshooting next step.
we were talking about this.
Okay, we're going to have you reactivate toilet with the removing the urine hose from the cradle. Please allow it to run for 1 minute, then add 250 milliliters of water, and then allow it to run for at least another 30 seconds and report how that went.
Okay, so there you go.
Good work.
We've heard about this.
Continuing to execute those tests to make sure the toilet is up and running properly.
We've heard them talk about this idea of a TLI wave off, where they would basically do a second day in that, do another 24 hours in that this high Earth orbit. If that, since they've known about this for a long time, you would think, well, maybe we would need to pack at least another day's worth of Apollo bags, so to speak. So I would imagine that they thought this through. So meaning they thought this through, meaning that they had
Also
rationale for why they did whatever they chose to do.
Or an anomaly gas analyzer checkout. They will test the air inside the cabin. They do this a couple of times a day to make sure that the environment inside the Orion spacecraft is as we expect. Again, this is the first time we've ever flown humans aboard Orion. It is a test flight, and so we're testing every single specification possible in preparation for future missions.
Brian, are you talking about the site, the Johnson Space Center site versus Kennedy Space Center? I mean, I think if you are, then the Johnson Space Center has much more of a college campus feel to it, and much more of a footprint like a college campus. Kennedy Space Center has much more of a feel of like a missile test range, which is what it is, and the same type of footprint as well. I mean, they do have. There is equipment here and there's test facilities, but it's definitely more like it's more it seems more like a spacecraft type of environment's not the right word, but you know what I mean. This is more of a spacecraft place and Kennedy, as you would expect, is more of a rocket type of a place. But you also have, again, the difference between mission operations, and so like JC's saying, maybe I haven't been to Jet Propulsion Laboratory, even though it's closer to where I live. It seems like it has more of a Jet Propulsion Laboratory feel. Mission operations, spacecraft mission operations, Kennedy, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, and Kennedy Space Center are more. Even though you can argue that they do some spacecraft operations there, I think it's more launch operations. Again, which I don't know that I don't know that that's particularly revelatory, but it is. There's definitely a different type of a.
Houston Integrity, good checkout.
That's it.
Okay, excellent news, Christina, and we are discussing if there's anything further we need.
That would be funny. But I guess it would it doesn't encapsulate the day, but it would be very similar to the way everything else has gone today, which is not a bad thing. I'm trying to remember. If I may have been. I'm getting old, and I may have been to JPL once or twice. Again, during the shuttle era, I went to Edwards Air Force Base a lot more often. It seems to be getting that vibe that they feel like the toilet is checked out now and seems to be. I don't know about fully functional. I assume so, though. Yeah, I don't think they did. I think, again, we just don't have, Tony, they did not say we have a toilet problem, I don't believe. But I do think that it was just hard to tell how much work, how much troubleshooting work. There's so much work that they needed to do during the first, 5 hours of the mission through the proximity operations demo. If they had sort of a quiet flight day 2, they may have been able to knock this out in the span of a couple of hours or maybe even less. It's just they sort of had to put this off until after all of the burns were done, and so here we are. I don't know that I don't think. Sounds like Christina's spent maybe 15 minutes doing this, and to be fair, they had,
as you heard, NASA astronaut Christina Cook called
the
down
ability
to
for the ground to troubleshoot
She had
this
a second good
for a couple of
the
hours
toilet, and teams
while
here are
they're
discussing whether they want to pursue
in parallel
any further
was not a bad
steps.
idea either. Yeah, I wish I had been of driving age in the early 1980s, because I was close enough to where I could have, if I was old enough, you could have driven out to Palmdale and seen the first 4 orbiters, 5. Let's see, Enterprise, Columbia, Challenger, Discovery, Atlantis. So yeah, all 5 of those vehicles just rolled through the streets of Palmdale and Lancaster out to the Air Force Base, and you could have you could have watched them roll right by your nose practically. And so the problem is I'm sure there were tons of pictures from people at the time. It's just that was, it's almost, I think Enterprise is 50 years ago practically now. So when they rolled it out in 1976, so it's a long time ago. It's just a little bit before digital cameras. But it was interesting, and I'm old enough now to have kind of gone through the full arc. So I remember when I was a kid just out of college, I got to meet Dan Golden right after he became NASA administrator in 1992, and it was just interesting, the vibe. And it happened to be at Edwards at Dryden Flight Research Center, as it was called back then. And the difference in vibes between seeing him not right after, but not that long after he was
and at this
confirmed.
time, we expect those 4
to the end of his
secondary
tenure.
CubeSat payloads that were on the Space Launch System are expected to have completed their deployment based on their own timers. Now, we don't have direct confirmation of this, but the payload teams will be able to communicate with and track their CubeSats.
Yeah, if Mr. Isaacman's sort of vision for the next 3 years approximately, if we see anything close to that, it's going to be really exciting. I mean, I know that even for an old fart like me. I think we're still waiting for a perhaps final word here.
Integrity
Here we
Houston
go. Maybe
for toilet status.
Yes. Possibly.
Go.
Happy to report that toilet is go for use. We do recommend letting the system get up to operating speed before donating fluid, and then let it run a little bit after donation.
We are cheers all around, and we will do that. Regarding the same, we have one CCU that will need to be emptied.
I wonder if that's the Apollo bag acronym.
We thought you might, so we went ahead and warmed up the heater, so you're good to empty the CCU at your convenience.
We copy all. Thank you.
And correction, we actually want you to hold off for now on the CCU emptying for potential GNC impact. So we'll let you know when we're ready for that.
Yeah.
Further confirmation from the ground teams and crew that the toilet issues have been resolved and that the crew will be go to use the toilet as normally planned.
Well, that's good. But it is one of the things that I remember, it actually might be on the timeline, but they were actually talking about as a test objective, really and truly, maybe it's on here or not, but sort of different magnitudes of urine dumps, because those affect the attitude of the spacecraft. It basically becomes a temporary thruster. Let me see. I'm not going to spend too much time on it right at the moment, but it may be euphemistically referred to in here. And I don't, well, of course, this is only the first 4 flight days. Oh, yeah, okay.
I'm NASA's PAO Leah Cheshire Mustachio here in Artemis Mission Control, and I'm joined by Dave Dennemiller. He is the Deputy Manager for Orion Guidance, Navigation, and Control. Thanks for joining us tonight.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So tell me about your role, and I believe you just came from the MER, is that right?
Yeah, we just came from the MER. I lead a team of people who developed the guidance, navigation, and control system for Orion. It's kind of a mouthful, but basically, where are we? How do we get to where we want to go? And how do we control the vehicle?
What if he's going to talk about the proximity operations
with the people
demo?
in this room, the flight controllers, and we developed the ProxOps demo and all the other flight ops that we're doing on Artemis II.
Okay, thanks, Gordon, for the...
Well, now that we're through the ProxOps demo, I would love to hear about what your team was hoping to learn during that demonstration.
Yeah, it's a very important data collection activity on Artemis II. There are basically three categories of things we wanted to learn. Controlling the vehicle involves a whole loop of hardware, software, and people. So we start with the docking camera view that you saw on the NASA TV. And that goes to the display unit that the crew looks at. The crew has to interpret that image and decide what to do. And they make commands to the computer and the hand controllers that you saw the crew members deflecting. And those go through our algorithms to determine which jets to fire. And then we have some electronics to pass those commands along. And that causes the vehicle to move, which goes back to the docking camera again. So it's a big loop. And the ProxOps was testing that whole loop to see how it worked. The second category of thing is the docking camera. Cameras in space have historically had problems because the space lighting is very, very tough on cameras. The brights are very bright and the darks are very dark, very high contrast environment. So we've done all the testing we can with the camera on the ground, but there's nothing like testing it in the space environment to see how it will really work. And then the third category of thing is that when we got in close to the ICPS, we're doing very, very, very small maneuvers. They're less than 1/100th of a meter per second velocity change of the vehicle. They're so low that our IMU can't detect them. So we need a target vehicle out in front of us so that we can actually see the motion. So we collected all that data, and now we have some stuff to look at post-flight.
That's fascinating. And I know pilot Victor Glover was really excited to see, and really quickly, we are getting an amazing view right now, I believe, from Orion, and that may be the Earth or the Moon in the very background. And it actually looks like a crescent Earth there in the background. This view coming from one of the solar array wing cameras aboard Orion.
Integrity Houston for CCU answer.
Go ahead.
Christina, two options for when you can dump the CCU. One option is today at MET 6 hours 35 minutes, which was during a planned dump time for us, or we can find a time for you to empty the CCU tomorrow.
And help me out with that math. How long from now is that dump time for today?
About an hour.
And I think we'd prefer to do the dump today during that time.
Copy, Christina, and we'll come back to you around that time, letting you know when you're go to dump the CCU.
Perfect. Thank you.
Some more communications with the crew aboard Orion, calling down to Capcom Amy Dill. And this view on your screen, that is Earth in the center of your screen from the Orion spacecraft. Again, a camera mounted aboard the spacecraft's solar array wing, looking back at all of us. Now, I want to get back to our interview. Dave, the Deputy Manager of Guidance, Navigation, and Control for Orion, talking about prox ops, a really dynamic time. And we heard from NASA astronaut Victor Glover the entire time that he was piloting the spacecraft. And I know that's additional information for your team as well. So what will you interpret from the information about the spacecraft that Victor called down?
Yeah, the crew's comments, Victor's in particular, are very important to us. Obviously, when the crew is manually controlling the spacecraft, we're interested in that task being easy for them to accomplish. So Victor was given a lot of feedback while he was flying. It shows his test pilot background, because that's what test pilots do. They mention the good, the bad, and the ugly as they're flying. So that's a very important part of this. We're actually going to get a score from them of how Orion did. It's called handling qualities. It's a time-tested tradition in the aircraft world that we adopted for spaceflight back in the shuttle days. So they will give us, actually give us a score. It's called a handling quality score.
Fascinating. So once you get that score from them, when will you get that? And then what will you do to digest that feedback? What's next for your team?
Yeah, we'll dive into all of this. We'll look at the video and look at the commands that the pilots made, that Victor made, and the way the system responded, and look at the video to make sure the vehicle did what we expected it to do. And we'll look at all of that afterwards. We've gotten Victor's comments live now, but we'll get more post-flight when we interview the crew post-flight.
Well, that's great. And I know that this is not the only time during the mission that the crew is manually flying the vehicle. There's a manual piloting demo coming up in a few days. So is there anything that your team learned today that helps inform how that demo will go, or any preparations?
Yeah, there's actually lots of different kinds of manual piloting tasks. The one that we did today is one of the more complex ones. We did it first because we needed the ICPS to be there, and the ICPS we had a limited amount of time before it had to perform its disposal burn. So these other tasks don't require an ICPS. We'll be doing some tasks of pointing the vehicle. We'll ask the crew to point at a star to simulate a future operation where we need to point the vehicle at a target at long range while the target's still at long range. So there's just lots. We're going to turn jets off to simulate a degraded control system and see how the control system responds. So we have a lot of other manual control tasks coming up.
Definitely a lot of action still to come for your group.
Yeah, and all this is, we're simulating stuff that we need to, we're not simulating, we're flying stuff that we need to fly on a future flight. So by being able to do it now, if we see any funnies in the data or decide we need to make any corrections, we have time to make those corrections before the Artemis II flight. So this is really risk buy down for Artemis III. That's why we're doing this, is to get some of the system tests behind us before we fly the first dockings for real on Artemis III.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a test flight. And with that, I would love to know how you feel after a crew has now piloted Orion for the very first time.
Oh, it's always a great feeling to see something that your team developed go fly for real. I've been around for a while. I've seen this many times, but the luster never fades. It's always fun to actually fly and see your stuff in operation.
I can only imagine. I'm so excited for your team. Congratulations. And we can't wait to see everything that is to come in the upcoming days. So thank you again so much for joining us, Dave Dennemiller, Deputy Manager for Orion's Guidance, Navigation, and Control System.
It was fun. We got 9 more days of fun.
Let's do it.
Yeah, it was kind of a surreal day in a way, because they just kept pressing forward. Once I think in a way though, going back to the beginning of the day, it really seemed like once they got through core stage loading, it was really just these were going to be issues that were going to be, you know, there for a while there was a little bit of a worry about the weather, and then we had the issue with the range, and then there was the discussion about the launch abort system batteries. But, you know, those all seemed like if those had caused a problem,
This beautiful view
maybe
coming from Orion.
you know, maybe we talk
on the
about a
Artemis II
24-hour
mission,
turnaround.
And a camera on the spacecraft's solar array wing, looking back at all of us here on Earth. Spacecraft now over 27,000 miles away from our home planet.
So there you go, and let's see, they're going up to an apogee of about 30, somewhere between 38,000 and 40,000 nautical miles. I'm not sure if she's using statute miles or not, but that is way out there. I think at this point they may even have passed the outer. I'm not so sure, but they may have. You know, they may be going. At some point, they're going to, I believe, pass all the way through the second Van Allen belt. But I know that, again, I don't know if they were referring to an eclipse sort of euphemistically earlier, you know, several hours back. It was obviously post-launch, but they were talking about being in some kind of eclipse earlier today, again, flight day 1. So I'm not sure. I mean, this, you know, it's taken a long time to get this capability sort of stood up. And, you know, I think, again, there is some value in what Mr. Isaacman is doing in trying to press a little bit to increase the launch cadence and to try to establish a higher launch tempo with this system if they can. And so, yeah, I think, again, I'll have to go back and watch the NASA coverage, but the coverage on, I mean, I know that NSF was mixing NASA views in from, or views from NASA cameras in, because they had fiber feeds from, you know, at Kennedy Space Center. But yeah, I think, and I think you heard some of the commentators like Ryan over there, you know, talking about how they were a little skeptical about how spectacular a daylight launch would look. But I mean, I found the daylight launch today just much more visually impressive than the first launch on Artemis 1. And we did get to see only flashes of it, but we did get to see, unfortunately we didn't see Miko, although I think we just had by coincidence, because it was close to a full moon and the trajectory, so the sun was right on the tail of the vehicle of the core stage going uphill, and so it would have probably been difficult to see main engine cutoff. But we did get to see one shot of one of the core stage down-facing cameras, I believe, after solid rocket booster separation, and then we got a quick shot of ICPS separation. So, you know, that was again much more interesting to look at with some lighting, and those were live. And so it is interesting that, you know, I hope that they are willing to release longer versions of those cameras. And, you know, maybe, again, it does require a little bit of luck in terms of the core stage being able to downlink all of those recordings down to Bermuda. before it goes over the hill. But yeah, it just was a much more spectacular, much more spectacular launch just to look at. Again and again, the clouds cleared out, not completely, and I know for those of you who were there, you may have seen more, but in terms of the camera coverage,
5 hours and 45 minutes mission elapsed time. 5 hours and 45 minutes.
It was just a much more spectacular
of the Artemis II
view.
mission.
And I'm again.
This view, looking back
I watched
on
both
Earth
launches
from one
on
of the
TV,
cameras on the
basically.
spacecraft's solar array wing. Things will start to get a little quieter from the crew. Of course, we heard quite a lot from them during the Prox operations demonstration when pilot Victor Glover manually flew the spacecraft around the interim cryogenic propulsion stage. With that complete, the crew conducted some troubleshooting for toilet issues they were experiencing earlier, and those have been resolved. They also continued drying and stowing their suits, configuring the cabin for the mission. They will have a private medical conference later today as well to report how they're feeling to teams on the ground. And eventually they'll be able to get into some sleep. Of course, this is not a full night's sleep, as they will have the rest of the mission, because they will move into a perigee raise burn. That perigee raise burn timelined for 12 hours and 55 minutes mission elapsed time. So just about 7 hours from now.
Okay.
After that perigee raise burn, they'll get the opportunity to get a few more hours sleep before waking up tomorrow and starting another day.
Setting alarm. So that's actually probably a good cue. So we can. I hope there should be time to. There should be time tomorrow to talk about. So she said, "What about 7 hours from now? I'll have to." Was it 12? Yeah, MET 12:55. So thank you for putting that there, because I'm going to check my alarm, but I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off here off this live stream. I'll say thanks as usual to everybody who's tuned in, and I'm going to at least considering it. This is a big perigee raise burn. I don't know what we're going to see in the morning, but I'll consider looking at at just coming on live and watching. It probably will not be 2 hours and 37 minutes for the perigee raise burn, but I'll go ahead and I don't know why not. I can just start up a live stream. Probably will schedule it at relatively short notice here, so I can just go to bed, and then I'll get up and start one up. But thanks again to everybody for hanging out for the proximity operations demo. Very interesting, and we've got these spectacular views now of the Earth at a distance of, what did she say? I think somewhere a little short of 30,000 miles away. So this is out beyond the geostationary orbits, I believe. So, but again, thanks to everybody for tuning in, and I will plan on coming back here in a little bit around 7 hours from now, and for the perigee raise burn, and we'll see what we can see. So, thanks everybody, and hope you had a good day. Hope everybody enjoyed seeing the launch today.